Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today we have a guest speaker, Minesh Baxi, who is the author of $1 Million Team Secrets and my favorite title, Stop Hiring Losers. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. It is my special pleasure and honor to have today Minesh Baxi, who is a celebrated author of Stop Hiring Losers. I love that title. Minesh, welcome so much, and thank you for joining me today.
Well, Kale, what a pleasure. And I know you and Liz are just a very special couple. You're a caring couple. You're a great role model for other people. And I know we have so many values in common. So, Kale, thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And the pleasure is completely all mine. Hey, ever since I saw and heard about this book, this Stop Hiring Losers, I think that title is phenomenal. And I think it is something that business owners are struggling with, of course, day in and day out. Tell me a little bit about this book, and certainly your other book, $2 Million Team Secrets, because they go hand in hand, right? So tell me about what led you to writing these books and, a little synopsis of what's in the books.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. So here is the book, Stop Hiring Losers, and the $1 Million Team Secrets came out just over a year ago as well. And it sounds strange to say this, but when I say stop hiring losers, I was the loser I was talking about.
No way. I don't believe it.
And the reason is very simple. So those who are watching, listening, let me ask you a question. If you were to hire somebody for the NBA franchise team of LA Lakers, would you hire a 5'3", slow, 59-year-old, or would you hire a young, Kale Houser is one of them as well, or a 7-foot tall who can really speed through the court? Which one would you hire, Kale?
Yeah, 7 foot all day, Monstars.
Exactly. Well, so when they were putting together the LA Lakers team, I'm not the candidate they should be looking at.
Right.
So if they want to win championship, hiring me would be most likely make them lose the championship possibility, right? So they don't want to hire. So when I talk about losers, what I'm really talking about is the wrong person on the team. I would be the wrong person on the NBA team. And that's the reason why I call the title Stop Hiring Losers. Because you don't realize that you're hiring a loser, to not put the person who should be on your team, but you end up hiring. And there are a number of reasons for that. We can talk about that.
Right. So I love that. So it's a little bit of a take of, it's not that you're hiring, former felons or, things of that nature, guys that just have no place in society. It's that you're not matching the skills you need for that position, whatever it may be, to the attributes of that person. Is that kind of an understanding of that?
Yeah, to some degree. When I use the word skills, I'm a little bit more specific about that because on paper, I looked like a great candidate for the company that I was working with. I was a computer programmer for 12 years. I have a bachelor's in electrical engineering. I was #1 in my college in India. Then I went to IIT Kharagpur, which is one of the most prestigious universities in India. Quite a lot of CEOs in US are from that place as well, including Google CEO. So I had the credentials that you would look at on paper to say, if I'm hiring somebody for computers, somebody for programming, somebody for technical skills, this would be a great person to hire because I had the resume and the skills. And believe it or not, during the interview, I was pretty good in communicating and letting people know how to connect, how to interact, and show them my credentials or the value that I can provide. So based on resume, skills assessment, as well as on interview, I scored really, really high. Here is the problem. That's not enough. That is not enough. And I was frustrated for 12 years in that profession. And the reason was I personally wasn't happy in the position. And guess what? If I'm not happy as an employee, is the team, is the company getting the best out of me either? No. Which is why after 12 years, I started my business of speaking, writing, and coaching. And I use online assessments. There are a number of them. One of the common ones people are familiar with is DISC, but there is a lot more that goes on behind the scenes. So I provide people my strategies. There's a 7-step proprietary process I go people through, and also use assessments like DISC to make sure they're covering everything possible before they hire the person. Does that make sense, Kale?
Absolutely. I love it. So as a synopsis, right? Because we all have our skills and our check boxes that we meet for most jobs, or especially ones that we're applying for and that we've been educated for. But there's that whole person concept of, do you even align with that company and in values and core and vision and all those things? Like, is that your future, right?
Exactly. And I totally agree with you. In fact, that's one of the things I start with. Some people have read the book called Traction by Gino Wickman, and he has 8 questions about creating your vision, core values, etc. And that's one of the things I ask my clients to do is go through this process with me so I know exactly who you are, what your vision is, what are the core values in the company. Now, let's go review each person on your team based on the accountability chart we have developed to see if they fit the role on that particular team.
Okay. That's great. Now, how have you found, as you've been working, so you talked about this and you mentioned it about you've started your own coaching business and your own way to get people through this process. How, as the business owner, how does this relate to you finding and working with other people? Because they're not your employees, right? They've actually hired you. Does this process work similarly to that?
Yes, a very good point here. And what I think you are referring to here as well is like people need to know that I was the employee that you did not want.
Right.
So I'm very good at identifying or helping you identify the people you should not have on your team. So we are eliminating so-called the bad apples, possibly the bad candidates quickly. Because when you look at the process, most people have the process of what? When somebody comes, gives them the resume, they have, let's say, 10, 15, 20, 100 resumes to go through. It's like so much time consuming, right? And then after reading through the resumes, you're like, oh, I like this person, that person, their description, etc. What they've done is they've wasted a lot of time. And then they have interviews, and each interview is 15, 30, 40 minutes, an hour. Easily. And the employer, my client is typically a small business owner. Small business owner is responsible for generating the sales or making sure the team develops the sales. So anytime they are spending towards interviewing, looking up resumes, is wasting from productive income generating activities.
Yes.
Now, this is not like a huge HR department. I have clients who have HR department who use these assessments and other tools that I have. But let's just talk about a small business owner with a company of 5 to 50 employees. This is the main guy trying to make everything happen. If that person has to spend 10, 20, 100 hours to recruit, bring on one person, and that person fails, guess what happens? That's a lot of money, time invested, and getting no return for it. And that's a big challenge for these employers. And I want to help eliminate that, because a bad hire can cost. One of my friend, Todd Screama, he's the founder of a company called Summit Funding, and he has about 1,000 employees. I knew when he had 3 employees. Okay, he has 1,000 employees today, built a very successful business. He says, Minesh, it cost me $50,000 for a bad hire. $50,000. So what you do is so valuable, which is what he was telling me, that eliminates those bad candidates. So the chances of me hiring the bad person is less, and hence I will have a better fit for the team.
Right. Now you made a small comment, and I want to kind of go back to that real quickly, because I think that is a big fear point for small business owners when they do have, whether out of necessity or mistake, or they inherited that bad employee. And you come in and say, that's a bad employee, that Joe or that Jane needs to go, right? So what has been your reaction to when you've made that suggestion? I'm presumably you've made that several times to various business owners. Just real shortly for the audience that maybe are in that situation, they know it in the back of their head that Joe's not working out too well, Kale's kind of garbage over there, but whether out of fear or that's his brother-in-law, like how do you approach that, and how do you convince that business owner to take that track for the overall health of their company?
Very good question, Kale. So here is the part that I think every employer needs to know. And this is interesting. I think people who have followed backgrounds of successful people in the past as well, is that if somebody is not doing a great job, the likelihood of them knowing it is high as well. You know what I'm saying, right? They're not happy in their job. They get a paycheck. And if they're totally unaware, that's a big problem by itself. But let's say they're not doing a great job, they don't fit in very well for whatever reason, and you continue to keep that person.
Right.
There are three problems you have right off the bat. The first thing is the person knows I should be fired or changed my position, and you're not doing it. Okay, they know it, right? They have actually been some aware of for a while, right? So they don't look at you as the person who can help them anymore. It's like, this is not a good manager, not a good employer. Okay, they're not really. So the second thing is there is something better for them out there, but unless they are forced to look into it, they won't even find energy, confidence, courage to go look for it.
Certainly, yeah.
And the third thing is other people around that person also know this is not the best fit.
Right.
And you are now causing lowering of the morale in your own company because you are keeping people who are not really the best. And hence you are setting a standard which is very low. Is that making sense to you, Kale, what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. And I think everyone understands that on a practical level, and the trick, right? And that's why people hire coaches and hire consultants, is to help them over that emotional aspect of it. Certainly. So that's fascinating. I love that. So let's talk real quick about your $1 million team secrets, right? That's also a fascinating thing because you can't do business without teams. What's the purpose of that book? What made you write that?
Very good point. And this is going back to what I was mentioning about the book. So as you know, there are main roles in the company. There is a CEO, so to speak. There's a person who brings in the clients, or a team which brings in the clients. There is a group of people who manage the clients, make sure they have a wow experience, the operations run smoothly. And the third is making sure the company is profitable and really doing well financially. Right. We know those roles exist, but do we really have a process to evaluate each person? And if we don't have a process to evaluate each person on the team, then we don't really know if they are the right fit for the role and are they doing the best that they can. So I use 7 different simple steps in order for us to, first of all, clarify the vision, then make sure you have an accountability chart. A lot of people have employees. They don't even have clear job descriptions. One of the questions I ask people to do is, hey, what are the top 3 responsibilities in this job? And sometimes the owner of the company, the manager of that business, can't tell me what those top 3 responsibilities are. And they come up with answers which are not measurable, which are not clear, which are not specific. Yeah. So if I
ask sales, yeah,
exactly. And the next, so we need to know what their job description is, like what are the top 3 responsibilities they have. You also need to know what they like, what they don't like, what kind of projects get them excited. If you don't know these things about each employee, you really are not going to get the best out of them. And if you don't get the best out of them, guess what? You're not getting the company to reach the next level. You're not getting the profitability you need. You're not getting to go home and relax and say, okay, I don't have to worry about it because John and Mary are taking care of the business. Because you are going on vacation, you get a phone call, you get all these challenges. Why? Because you didn't have anybody who was doing the right thing and ownership wise. Is that making sense?
Absolutely. I love it. So now I always ask, or I try to always ask my guests, in your opinion, in your experience, if there is one, is there a difference between a manager and a leader? Or can you elaborate on, to you, what is the difference between a manager and a leader in business?
Yes, very good point. And this is definitely very valuable. A leader sets the direction of the company. Perfect. And the manager makes sure that you have the resources to go in that direction.
Nice.
That's a simple way I like to put it.
Yep. And I think that's perfect. I would wholeheartedly agree. I'm just always curious to, people have different opinions and definitions of those 2 words. So I think that's phenomenal. Well, those are great. Where do people find your books, and where do they find you if they want to reach out and contact you more to learn about your process, about your books, about your coaching, all of that?
Well, good point. So they can always find me on LinkedIn. My name is unique enough that they should find it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Minesh Baxi. It's not really that common, so they can find it. My website is mbaxi.com, so that's not that difficult to find for them as well. And we can give them a link to get a copy of the book, $1 Million Team Secrets, as a gift. All they would pay is a small shipping charge, and they can have the book delivered to them because now they actually have some information on that. On YouTube, I have created a playlist of all the chapters of the book condensed in 2 minutes each. So if they are one of those people, hey, Minesh, I don't want to be reading the book. It's like, okay, can you watch 2 minutes? Yeah, I can watch 2 minutes. Great. There is a summary of the book in 2 minutes. And then each chapter, I have 2 minutes. So if they go to YouTube and look for $1 Million Team Secrets, they'll find the playlist, which is easy for them to then go through and get the crux, the key items from the book.
That is incredible. So there will be a link, everybody, in the comments for getting to Minesh's YouTube channel, so you can listen to the book in a truncated fashion, and so you can quickly go through that, as well as a link to get the actual book for free, as long as you just cover his shipping charges. So that's phenomenal. Thank you so much for providing that for us, Minesh. Is there anything else you wanted to say as far as leadership or your experience, or anything about what you've got coming up? Any projects coming up?
Well, good point. I have a lot of things coming up, but the main thing which I really want people to understand is you cannot enjoy a great life. You cannot run a great business without the good, right people for the role on the team. And by knowing that you have the right people in the right role on the team, just like Jim Collins calls good to great, right seat on the bus, you're not able to leverage your business that you worked hard for. You're really putting all the energy into it to give you the lifestyle that you really want.
Right. That is perfectly said. I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule in your day to join us here on this podcast. I hope all of our listeners have been paying close and rapt attention to what you're saying, because you're hitting all the nails on the head. Minesh, thank you so much. Have a fantastic afternoon.
I certainly will. And I will tell you, Kale, you and Liz are special people. In a very short time that I've gotten to know you, I know you care for people, you want to provide great value. So stay tuned to what Kale is doing, what Liz are doing together. And I will promise you, you'll definitely be reaching your heights in your business. Thanks, Kale.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.